Welcome back to the Best Ball Boardroom. We are 2 weeks away from the NFL season, from the actual regular season starting, from my off season actually beginning, because this feels like crunch time. This feels like the playoffs for us in the Best Ball streets. We are grinding out. The underdog clocks for slow drafts just went to 4 hours, and this is the heart of it. This is where the newbies, the fish, the casuals are starting to join us. This is when us degens who have been drafted for literally months. Oh, it's been a long summer, but this is the time when we cannot let up. We have to stay strong. We have to keep our heads down. We must keep drafting. We got to stay on top of those news. Fortunately, Jerry, Judy, all of this stuff we will get to. But for today, I've got an exciting guest. I'm excited. This is the man that's behind one of the biggest fantasy football accounts on Instagram. He's deep in the weeds. He's writing fantasy football articles, building out draft guides, all around giving those Instagram people the fantasy football goods. And for someone who is never on Instagram, doesn't even know, it's like a foreign language to me. I'm excited to learn from him. Please welcome Steve Rippey, owner and creator of Fantasy Guides. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Justin. Yeah, I get it. The Instagram, you're either one or the other. You know, you're either Twitter or Instagram. And it's not that we're against Twitter or against Instagram. It's just what you're used to. And so I completely relate.
I see that. And Steve and I were talking right before this and kind of talking through the differences between like Twitter and Instagram and such. And too funny, we actually got into skiing and snowboarding, and turns out Steve is a snowboarder and doesn't want to take the time to kind of learn the skiing. And literally, I'm the opposite. I grew up skiing my entire life, and I feel like this perfectly encapsulates the difference between us on Twitter, the virgins, the nerds, the analytics ones that prefer the ones that actually use typing and text, versus all the cool kids who are out snowboarding. Probably got a J in there behind their ear. Like, they're looking at the pictures. They're looking all flashy. Like, I mean, even look at our backgrounds. Look at yours and look at mine. This is just the epitome of the differences between Twitter and Insta.
Well, we need to get together. I think if we combined forces, you know, with your analytics and my artsy background stuff, we couldn't be stopped.
So true. Quite true. I mean, literally never used it. I think I made an account like just because I needed to like see something, but I know nothing over there. So I'm excited to learn from you with regard to that. But also, I mean, you are like very deep in the weeds, giving takes and such. So, and you've been doing a whole bunch of best balls, a bunch of underdogs. So excited to kind of get your takes, and should be an interesting, a little fresh style draft.
Yeah, I'm excited. Same thing. I'm excited to hear from you. I feel like the professor when it comes to best ball drafts. You've done.
Sticking with Professor again. We're sticking with the nerds on Twitter. I like it. Yeah. Okay. Good.
I'm taking notes. I have a notepad ready because I've done a ton of best ball drafts, but not quite as many, you know, as you have. Not even close. And same with Best Ball Mania. So I have questions for you as we get through this.
Love it. Love it. Speaking of, I mean, hey, professors and nerds, we've got some names we see in here, some friends. We got some Eagles there. Chat, let's hear it. Did you make it in it with us? Where are you in the lineup? We've got that 11 spot. What are your thoughts on kind of draft position? What have you been feeling this year?
Well, and you can tell me your strategy. Like at the 11th spot, you know, a lot of times my favorite pick is probably Nick Chubb in a lot of mock drafting I do for best ball. I just like his overall outlook for the entire season. But I know you've put so much of a focus on like end of season, week 17. Week 16. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. But that's a guy I really love towards the end of the first in drafts.
Nice. I can, not surprisingly, as the way this stream is probably going to be going, I have zero Nick Chubb probably. For me, I mean, there's a little bit of the GTO, the game theory optimization angle to it, where I mean, let me actually take a look at my exposure, because I think I drafted a little of him when he was like in that late second area.
Yeah.
But he's just boomed up so much that I feel like I already missed the boat a little, and now I'm kind of just chasing a bit when I draft too early. So I think like there's that aspect where even if I do hit on Nick Chubb and he has a great year, I'm so far behind the teams that we're getting him in that late second, even early third.
Okay.
As we're talking, I'm going to look and see what my actual exposure is in the BBM.
I mean, let's see who's gone. I do like the wide receivers, Detroit and Dallas, with Garrett Wilson with Amon-Ra St. Brown and CD Lamb. I'm guessing they'll probably go here pretty soon, though.
3%. That is 3% more than I expected. So that's at least that 3% was in the kind of late second, early third. But hey, if we'll see how this draft kind of plays out. Pretty chalky thus far. I think literally the exact same as what I have for my rankings. It's just so flat in that back end. So, like, yeah, I don't think any pick is a bad pick, but as you mentioned,
it gets
all those wide receivers,
yeah, towards the end of the first, it's like there's just I feel like every first round pick I really like. There's not like one guy that I have too many questions about.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's honestly surprising how just like literally from an ADP angle, did Eckler pass Kelsey in ADP yet? 7.3, 6.3. Nope. So that's the one that otherwise I think we're just going directly down. Bijan is the one that's moved up a little as people see the kind of training camp, the preseason highlights.
He looked good in that first game too. I know it was limited, but he looked as advertised.
Okay, well, Bijan is the top of the board. Would you go Bijan? Would you go Chubb? Maybe we grab Chubb on the 14. What
if
do you
think he can fall, I'd totally be good waiting for him to fall.
I think we take a little the ADP value here with the 7.7. Maybe we can get a unique build, and we either give ourselves, like, if we want to go with that strong RB start, like.
Overall, do you like Bijan quite a bit more than Chubb this year?
I do. All right, so he goes Garrett Wilson. He goes Devontae. We are doing it. We are going boomer style, back-to-back running backs. We get it. Increase that Chubb exposure. And I think, like, this is a rather unique start with Bijan Chubb.
I'm going to get you up to 3.2% on your Nick Chubb shares.
There you go. But yeah, so for me, with the difference between Bijan and Nick Chubb, one is I'm expecting just that Arthur Smith kind of Atlanta offense to just be running so much. So even if Bijan is giving up some of the touches to Cordero or to Tyler Algier, we can still kind of expect that, like, Bijan still, has a chance to lead the league in touches on such a run-first team. From a talent-wise, Nick Chubb may be the most pure runner in the field, but like Bijan Robinson, we've seen it from a college standpoint. The prospect profile works out that, like, he will be catching passes there. I think he just has it all. And if you look at the data I think it's the 7 out of the last 8 rookie running backs that were drafted in the first 3 rounds of fantasy surpassed their ADP value. And so,
especially top 10 like he is, it's almost like there's no busts in that group. There's Trent Richardson, but he still was awesome his rookie year.
That first year, that's still worked out. So that's where I've got a slight lean. As you said, I don't really dislike any of the first round. So a lot of the times I let the kind of ADP come to me and then build from a uniqueness or kind of from a what makes the most sense in that second round. But yeah.
All right, so
I've taken a look, and so Lindeck here is in the 1-3. Good luck. Start to the CMC Waddle. We've got one other Eagles is going with the double RB as well. From an elite QB standpoint, let's see.
That was something I wanted to ask you too. Is what's your strategy with QBs? Because I find myself thinking they're going way too early because of the recent success of the top 3. And I think that will even out a little bit, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going early. You're definitely giving up kind of some positional upside who you have to draft them over. I think we're going to see them go earlier in best ball than in redraft or other structures because of the importance of stacking with this tournament style. Yeah. And so an example is like Patrick Mahomes. His ADP is the highest of the QBs. Let's pull it up here, is 20.8. But I actually have him as like my 3rd best QB, and I'm rarely ever getting him because often. Go for it.
Are you Hurts, Allen, Mahomes?
I am. And I think it's very close. But like when I'm leaning towards the others, but I'm not willing to take Mahomes here at 18 to stack with Kelsey.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, he often goes here to the Chase or the Higgins drafter so they can get that week 17 correlation.
Gotcha. Yep.
Okay, we are next on the clock. We've got some wide receivers. We probably want to stop at running back for a while.
Yeah.
I love me some Lamar. DK is not bad as well.
I don't know where you're at with him. I really like DK and just the Seattle offense this year. I don't know. I just think that they're going to be, as long as Geno can keep it going another year, which I get some of the concerns with that was really the only year he's done it before, but I don't know. I'm pretty bullish on them, and I know their Week 17 matchup I think is pretty good.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, Seattle versus Pitt, not the worst matchup. Lots of stackable options. Coming back to us, Keenan Allen is top of the board right here. I do think he's a tier above the next group of
I
wide
really like
receivers.
him. Same. I really like him this year. I'm just crossing my fingers. I'm a Broncos fan, and Jerry Jeudy. I don't know if you just saw hamstring injury, so that's the only thing that concerns me with Keenan being 31 years old. But I love him this year.
It's true. Yeah. So Jerry Jeudy news looks like it just broke about a hour ago. Sounds like it's kind of a soft tissue hamstring potential injury. Twitter doctors are out in full force. Do you guys have Insta doctors on Twitter? We've got all these. Let's hear.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there, and they like Sports Med Analytics is one I follow. Deepak, he does a great job. There's a few on there that do a really good job, and yeah, it's probably similar to what you have on Twitter.
Yeah, as soon as the injury comes out, you've got these doctors who are heavily in the field. Maybe they've seen these injuries, they work with these injuries, but trying to kind of prognosticate. Now, there's obviously the negative aspect where, similar to our news cycle, everyone wants to be first. Everyone wants to kind of get the buzz around it. So I try to kind of take a what do we call it? Kind of a weighted approach. I'm thinking of the phrase, not tragedy of the commons. But when you just kind of combine them all, you think in general they're going to be closer together.
Yeah.
You're
Your
going to
consensus take.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard you on, I don't know who you were talking to, but I heard one of yours, you were talking about how you rolled an ankle, and I think Adam was giving you a hard time about it because you're not a pro athlete.
Yes.
But I relate to that a little bit. I've rolled ankles. It's horrible. And I, for the first time about a week ago, pulled my hamstring, and I can tell you.
Tell me, how long are you going to be out?
I would need a cart myself. So I don't know if the cart's precautionary or what, but I would have taken that cart.
Yeah, I do like to. I think it is always worth noting with these carts in preseason, the locker room and training camps are usually substantially further away than when you're on the an actual NFL football field, because you don't have to rush to get back there. So they almost always bring a cart out. That said, this still doesn't look great. The initial Twitter doc prognostications were maybe something like a 4 to 6 week. I think we're docking him for about 2 full games in our current projections. Yeah, hey, the biggest thing there for me is Marvin Mims is going to get thrown into the deep end game 1.
And I don't know where you are. I've also been high on Cortland Sutton this offseason just because I'm like, he's discount Jerry Jeudy. I could see a similar total fantasy point production from the two if both were healthy, and you're getting him so much later.
Yeah. When the season started, I was on the fence on Cortland Sutton. He was,
I get that, yeah.
He was being drafted right at the end of the wide receiver tier, where if you didn't take him, it really had to drop off. But there was trade risk news. There was trading up, new coaching staff to draft Marvin Mims, could Cortland Sutton, and then Tim Patrick quotes that he might be the best wide receiver in the room. So I was a little concerned. Then Tim Patrick has the season-ending injury, unfortunately. KJ Hamler has the was it heart issues, but he's going to be out for a little.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay, whether they liked Cortland Sutton or not, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be in there in 2 wide receiver sets unless Marvin Mims eventually spells him. But at the least, he's going to be on that field for 3 wide receivers, most likely 2. And now this news, I'm at 17% Cortland Sutton. I like him a lot now, and I had been drafting him over the, really since the Tim Patrick news is when I went pretty hard on him.
Gotcha.
Okay. Coming back around to us, let's get a quick recap on this draft. Nothing too crazy. No one's gone for the double QB or the double tight end early. OJ Simpson over here going with 4 running backs. True to the name, OJ Simpson.
Love it.
Let's see what else. Eagles went 3 straight running backs. Peach Suplex here goes 3 running backs. So a decent amount of kind of heavy running back teams. We'll see how this. Here's our first craziness. Daniel Jones.
Man. What is that overall?
156 overall compared to his ADP
QB7.
of about 110.
Was that QB7 that he just went?
That sounds about right. Maybe 7 or 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Okay, 8. That's high for me this year.
50 spots above his ADP. Burrow falling, but we don't have a stack with it.
No, I think I heard you saying the other day, I can't remember if it was you or whoever else was on, but Herbert. Like, I mean, I like him a lot this year, and since we have Keenan, do you like that, or is this too early for you with taking him?
Justin Herbert's already off the board.
Oh, was he? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, okay. He went 54 to the
Oh,
Mike Williams guy. I've got Chris
gotcha.
Godwin just because we need wide receiver, so I put that in
Yep.
there.
Yeah, we do need some wide receiver help.
Yeah, and like this is where like, oof, Joe Burrow's here.
I
Like, do we
know.
want to do it? But
It doesn't leave us a lot of options down the road.
I,
But
I don't,
but that
I
is
don't,
a
I don't hate it. Tyler Boyd is 113.
yeah.
And so if we look, we can grab Tyler Boyd at 107, 110.
Okay.
You want to do it?
Sure, let's do it. Why not?
Okay. And
Okay.
because I'm also looking at the rest of our stacks and I'm like, okay, we're not going to get Herbert. We don't really want to go Baker here.
Right.
We could go like a Deshaun Watson because we have Chubb and grab like some late ones. Geno's definitely in play. But getting that value on on Burrow, I think gives us a bit of a unique team, and that Tyler Boyd should fall right into where we want him.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. It is going to be unique. I was thinking Geno, maybe we wait on him, but I mean, did he just go QB9? Is that what we just took Burrow at?
Yeah, that's strong value.
I mean, he could be the QB. He could be top 5 this year.
Yeah, and I mean, like normally we see Chase drafter wanting him, but Chase went Josh Allen, so no fighting there. T. Higgins drafter went Jalen Hurts, so no need to grab him there. And when those kind of wonkiness happens, people play for their stacks. Although,
yeah,
we did have Stan go with Daniel Jones over Joe Burrow, so like I can't really reason too much out of this, but
that was crazy.
On the turn in the side here, we had a Darren Waller, George Kittle double tap of tight end. So AB Carpin going 0 RB, 3 strong wide receivers, Lamar, and 2 tight ends. Definitely an interesting build. Zoom out a little so we can get a little more of that draft board in. What is go for it.
We could think way late, Irv Smith.
Yep, I think Irv Smith definitely fits in this build, considering we have no tight ends. We'll most likely make this a 3 tight end. We can take a look at his ADP. It's 173. That would fit. We'll have to see. It'd be a little bit of a reach at 158 or a falling value at 179. Can see how the draft.
I can't imagine too many people would want to add him necessarily, but I guess it depends on if they're going 3 tight end also.
Yeah, kind of had to feel out the room. And when you've got someone like we already saw this double tight end here, so maybe that puts a little extra pressure elsewhere.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting with the tight ends too, because like Irv Smith at 173, he's been falling, and it's not so much that there's reasons for him to fall. There's actually been positive camp reports on him, but other tight ends, Jake Ferguson, Luke Musgrave, have really been going the other way, propelling upwards. And so just as a result, for teams looking for tight ends, he starts to fall. So I don't hate him, even if we have to reach a little. Reaching that late in a draft doesn't really hurt you that much.
No, not at all. Not at that spot specifically.
Yeah. What's been your general QB strategy thoughts? Are you on, you said you're kind of not as much on the elite ones. Do you want to go 2?
Yeah.
Do you go 3 more often? What's your strat?
I've kind of been really liking where Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, some of those guys are going. I'm not trying to get some of the elite quarterbacks as often. If I do, it's usually Lamar is the one that depending on if he falls a little bit later to me, I like to get Lamar. I like Justin Fields this year. I kind of like, that's my starting zone right there. Those, rounds 4, 5, maybe 6. And then if I don't get those, waiting and trying to get like a Geno or something like that. I feel like where Deshaun Watson's been going, I haven't been getting as much of him, although I like him this year. But I really like where Daniel Jones has been going, not in this particular format, how early he went here, but like even in like redraft leagues, you can get him so late, I've really liked where he's been going and where Anthony Richardson has been going.
He is my highest owned quarterback. And yeah, he's just been, doesn't matter where doesn't make sense where he's been going. I think we need to still kind of keep going on the wide receivers. Go Quentin Johnson. Actually, we have 3 by week 5, so I'm going to say no more of that. Seems like a good time for Cortland.
Yeah, I love Cortland this year. You can You can blame me if it doesn't work out, being the Homer Bronco fan here.
Not a problem at all. Slight reach, but also with the Judy news makes sense. It's also a bring back to our Keenan Allen in week 17. Get that little Denver
Yep.
LAC correlation at the right position for
Yeah, I
us.
like that.
I do like Quentin
I
Johnston, but
do.
like with how many bye weeks we have, it's a little scary. How do you feel about
I
someone
really do
like
like.
Dave Montgomery? Go for it.
Go ahead. I was gonna say
I
I
was going to
love
say, how do
David
you feel about someone
Montgomery.
like Dave Montgomery?
Love him this year. Love that offense. I think he's a good running back. I mean, I think both are going to do well, and it's just that contingency. If something happens to Gibbs, he's this undersized back. He's a quick twitch back. If something happens to him, I think Montgomery's a smash.
Yeah, I love me some David Montgomery. For me, it's that combination of he can have kind of top 10, top 15 running back games, even with Gibbs there, just from a touchdown volume standpoint. I think he still is going to be used a little in the passing game, maybe not as like core as those third downs, but we know he can catch. But yeah, you mentioned that word contingency has probably some of the most contingency upside of just about any running back that's being drafted right now.
And that offense is so good. The offensive line is so good, and their defense, it's improved, but it's still a defense that's going to be in shootouts. So I love that.
Agree. And hey, Dome as well. I love that.
Yep.
I see questions here, and Kitmo saying need to rip some BBMs. I mean, without a doubt, we are 2 weeks from the regular season. This is when the majority of fantasy football people are doing their home leagues. This is when they start thinking about kind of fantasy football. This is when the casuals are getting in. And one note is, if you're expect that your stacks are not as safe as they may have been a month or two ago, because a month or two ago, you've got teams that are far more of, hey, I want my stack. I'm going to focus on my QB. Here, because it's a bit more casuals, they may not be in the weeds. They may not be understanding stack strategy as much. Expect that there's going to be some feels like snipes of QBs for unstacked teams, when in reality, they're just drafting their guys. And so feel free to reach a little more on QBs to get your stacks now, because I believe you'll find falling value at other positions just by the makeup of how these drafts are going. Taking a look.
Goff went ahead of Richardson.
I mean, by the same person who took Daniel Jones.
Oh, wow.
And again, I mean, Amon-Ra, so at least they did it. They got the stack here. Yeah. But definitely is just get your guys, not really caring much about ADP.
Let me ask you, because I just saw Michael Thomas just went. What's your feelings on Michael Thomas this year? Is he a guy you've avoided, or have you actually found yourself drafting him a lot?
He's mostly a fade. From what we're hearing from Nick Underhill, kind of the beat reporter out of New Orleans, it's just like kind of hit or miss with him. It hasn't been that great like he's been. And it's probably more of what he's not saying, because he's been pumping up that Chris Olave is an absolute beast and going to be like, I think Silva mentioned it on one of the recent pods that Underhill's just been in his ear talking nonstop about how Olave is going to have a breakout season. You've got Kamara, who maybe it was an injury issue last year, but apparently is looking, just young and flashy as ever. And then I think it's going to be a bit more of a running team as well, because they have the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. And you've got 3 very competent backs back there in Jamal Williams, Alvin Kamara, and rookie Kendra Miller. Even there's now this report and these connections about Jawan Johnson and Derek Carr telling his brother, hey, you should be drafting Jawan Johnson as your fantasy kind of sleeper. So I think that Michael Thomas, like without the volume that he saw with Breeze, I think he's going to kind of get left out.
Yeah. And you're not even baking in the injury risk. That's just what we're seeing on the field. Yeah. And also, I mean, his offseason workouts he was sending was just him doing deadlifts all offseason, which I would have liked to have seen him cutting on a dime, on some routes. But
hey, Slant Boy's got to run. Slant Boy, we need that movement, that action.
That's what I'm hoping Cortland Sutton becomes. I hope he becomes the mile-high slant boy.
I think that's very reasonable for Sean Payton, and I think that's like we've kind of been hearing whispers, regurgitating it. Maybe there's a bit of a positive feedback loop there, but no, I think that's a very reasonable situation, as Cortland Sutton actually is the higher volume receiver in that offense.
Yeah.
Especially if Judy's out. Okay, coming back around to us, we were at pick 107. We probably don't need running back. Deshaun Watson is just crazily falling. I mean, I think we probably grabbed Deshaun here just for
Yeah.
our Chubb and like ADP
Yeah,
value.
this is later than I typically see him going. What are we at right now? What pick
We're
are
at
we?
pick 107. His ADP is
Yeah,
87. A Carbon
man,
went double tight end, so not going to grab tight end. So we could go Deshaun and Joku and get ourselves a little stack there.
let's do it. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like I said, I don't find myself getting as much Watson, but he's not usually falling quite this late for me. So
I mean, traditionally, when you grab Watson, you're doing it because you're stacking with Amari Cooper, and you're usually taking Cooper around this area and then drafting Watson in like 86, 87. We got 2 rounds of value there. And now we're getting like the Njoku part of the stack at value.
Awesome.
At cost. All right. That is not bad. This is there's a little wonkiness going on in these drafts. And that's what I was saying is as we get closer to the season, like there's going to be some wonkiness to kind of eat up. I see a question down here from DFS Czar. I'm going to pull up real quick to help me answer that question. But if we look at the best ball mania, so the question is, do you believe that the best ball winning team has already been drafted? My answer for that is that 77% of drafts for the BBM have already happened. So purely from a statistical standpoint, it is likely it has already been drafted. I will then say that every draft happening now, I think for sharp drafters, there is more EV than any of the drafts that have happened in the past probably 2 months or so, probably since like the very first couple of days that this tournament opened, because of just how soft these rooms are in the casuals. And that's why I leave a decent amount of my drafts for these 2 weeks.
So it kind of balances out like some of the values you might have got early on in the year, but you're with more sharp people versus later in the year. Some of those values may be not there, but you get a room like we just got with, some of these QBs falling.
Right. And if you drafted in the first 3 days, you have a better chance of getting those top 0.001% teams, because that's where, if you look at the ADPs that there were then to now, some people missed a lot and some people hit really hard on them. So you're going to have some teams that are just like monster mega teams. And you probably have a better chance of winning like the regular season first place if you drafted very, very early. But there weren't that many teams there. And the majority of the season was really then in this like, hey, just dull ADP range. And we haven't had that major riser that we had like with when Cam Akers went down and Darrell Henderson moved from like a 13th to a 5th rounder or something. I'm not like who's the biggest riser? It might be Darren Waller. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's a guy I've been very high on all off season. I've been high on him since he was drafted as a wide receiver. I've been like holding out for him, and I've gotten like, because I do a lot of dynasty stuff. So I was drafting him as a rookie and held out for the longest amount of time, got like 2 good years of Waller. And then I'm hoping for one more.
All signs are pointing to this looking like a kind of a Kansas City light offense, where you don't have an alpha wide receiver that really rises, but you have more of a kind of Moneyball style where they all play their roles. They're all kind of effective in their own world, but none of them really rise above from like a big, I don't know, like winning wide receiver season. But Waller could be that guy. And we've seen it in preseason. We've seen it in training camp, the rapport he's shown with Daniel Jones, and just being like a matchup nightmare for linebackers predominantly over the middle of the field. I'm so bullish on the Giants this year.
Me too. And he also, I don't know, you saw that the first 2 passes went to him the last preseason game, and he was lined up wide, and I think the receiver or the corner tried to jam him, and he just knocks him over. So he's too big for the corners, too fast for the linebackers.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it's interesting. I mean, we mentioned Brian Daboll, but like, look at his old job in Buffalo this year, and they're going to be doing some interesting things there with Dalton Kincaid, where they have this 11.5 style offense where you have both Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid on the field. And based off who's kind of covering Kincaid, they'll make a decision whether or not to kind of move him outside and use that as a mismatch, or keep him kind of in the inside as a blocker, depending on kind of what the formation is. I love to just see these coaches getting more and more creative with schemes, with matchups, all of that.
Oh, it's fun. The offensive league is fun.
Okay. We are coming back around. Let's get a quick recap of our team. We've got Burrow and Watson. We're pretty much done at wide receiver. We've got Bijan, Chubb, Montgomery. Great wide receiver, great running back core. A little light at the wide receiver position. Probably wouldn't hate kind of loading up here a bit. And then we've got Njoku.
I see your boy Mims.
Mims is definitely there. I'm okay with Mims. Let's see if we were to go Rashee Rice. I don't hate either. What names jump out here? There's no kind of direct stacks that I'm seeing.
Rice has been a guy, stacks aside, a guy I've been drafting a lot. Mims as well. That's week 17, Denver versus Los Angeles, the Chargers. I feel like that one could be a shootout. Those ones tend to be. So yeah, I like those two guys, I think.
All right, I'm going to take Rashee Rice first from an ADP, as well as that is the bring back for the Cincy. I forgot we did miss out on that Tyler Boyd. Where did he went 104. So before we had the chance with Deshaun, from the same guy who grabbed the Daniel Jones. Got to get your guys.
He's helping us and hurting us.
Exactly. All right. One more here, probably another wide receiver. We mentioned Mims. I think Mims makes a lot of sense with what we're building, and just it's kind of a fade Judy type team.
Now, I don't want to wish injury on anybody. I'm hoping he's fine. He's one of my favorite players, but that would be good for this team.
Yeah. I think that makes the most sense. I think we're probably getting a little, like with Sutton, it's okay overspending a little on ADP because this Judy news is obviously not baked into the current ADP. And yeah, I think he's going to be out at least 2 to 4 games.
Yeah, and then you just hope that he doesn't have a reoccurrence throughout the season.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Another question here. Asking about kind of what do you do when you don't love how a draft is progressing? Do you salvage it, swing at the fences, grab exposure? What about you, Steve?
I still try to not overreact too much. I still try to keep close to ADP, because then I think your whole draft, you just start to get crazy with a lot of the picks later on. I still try to keep close to it and hope that it works out at the end. Because I think reaching too much, that's just kind of going against what the whole purpose is trying to take value where you can get it. And if things don't quite go your way and then you throw value out the window, I think your draft ends up suffering.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so I think when things aren't going well, I try to think like, okay, what are the scenarios that I think are less likely to happen, but when they do happen, I can hit in a big way. And that usually means with regards to late stacks. And so I'm always thinking like, okay, I missed out on these stacks. I was really trying to I drafted Tyreek and Waddle and someone sniped me on Tua. What do I do now? Okay, maybe I still try to grab a Zay Flowers or a Bateman to say like I still go with a kind of a game stack there. But now I'm also thinking maybe that Carolina Jacksonville looks nice. Maybe that Pitt Seattle where I can grab Kenny Pickett late. Just thinking through where some of those, or Daniel Jones and all those late stack options, and maybe a Tyler Higbee or something for that bring back. But just trying to think through, there are some games that we may not love, but if things don't go according to plan early on, maybe that's when I can kind of, focus on the second half of the draft to build out a game stack that is less likely to hit. But hey, I need a bit of a Hail Mary.
Justin, you remind me of Russell Crowe's character in It's a Beautiful Mind. Like, I feel like you just see players and the weeks and the stacks, like it's all visual. Like you just close your eyes, and you've done so many of these that you're about as sharp as it gets. That I love how, like, I watch your podcast and I see you're like, we've got this stack and this stack. Do you have like literally all the stacks, all the week 16, 17? Is it all memorized at this point?
Yeah, I mean, but it's just drafting so much, and it kind of just becomes, it just becomes first nature. It's too funny. I was watching the TV show Barry, the HBO show, and they literally, I think like an episode ago, I was just watching, had a photograph of A Beautiful Mind walking down, and too funny.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm seeing right now. It's fun to watch.
All right. So thinking through, and like to that mind, I mean, what I think helps like with these streams and such, and even the way like me talking through it helps me, because trying to express like visually is when we think through the draft board, where are we now? What are we trying to get to? Like, what's our destination? And so specifically for this team, we can kind of map out what the final build is going to be, because we're locked into 2 QBs. There's no reason to go elsewhere there. Bijan, Chubb, and Montgomery are a very strong starting 3. We could either make this 4 or 5, depending on what we do going forward, but we know we're going to have at least 4. So it's 2, 4. Tight ends, we're almost guaranteed to have 3. So it's like a 2, 4, 8, 3. And that gives us one more luxury pick where maybe we save it for the 18th round and we figure out, does it make more sense to go 2, 5, 8, 3 with a running back? Does it make more sense to kind of go really heavy at wide receiver? I believe this probably makes sense to be like a 2, 5, 8, 3. And once we know that, we can now start building towards knowing there's 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. How do we want to allocate that capital?
Yeah. What one player I was going to ask you about, what your thoughts, how are you handling the tight end situation in Denver? Because it could be a lot of value if Troutman, he's going so late, but
he is. And now Greg is falling. And we just had a report today about Albert O catching a touchdown. And so I was actually going back and forth with the ETR guys that I just cannot find myself drafting Greg Dulcich. Yeah. It's just too much risk. But now with the Judy injury, that actually is going to help Dulcich some. I think I'm at the stage where it's if I have Russ, I'll maybe take Greg Dulcich after his ADP. But for the most part, it's just too much risk for me at a position where there's late guys that I really like.
There's been so much of the other two Dulcich, talk. I completely forgot about Albert O.
I mean, it's something over there.
Yeah.
Okay. Running back's a little rough. If we wanted Kendra Mill, I don't know. It's a bit of a reach if there's anything there. We still need, as we said, basically 2 at every position. I love Jaden Reed. DJ Chark has that injury, but I think he's still good. Jonathan Mingo. Any guys jumping out here?
Well, maybe not right here, but Donovan Peoples-Jones. Do you have any interest in him?
I do. And that was one where we can definitely, it fits. It's a bit of a reach. I'm going to grab Juwan Johnson here. It's a tight end that I like on an upward trajectory right now, and he's a bring back to Chris Godwin. And let's see, what do we have in the Cleveland offense? We've got Chubb. We have Njoku. I don't hate DPJ. It's a bit of a reach. There's also the Irv Smith aspect here to grab our 3rd tight end for the Cincy because we didn't get any. Maybe that makes sense.
We're at 1.
We're at 158. We don't have anyone with Joe Burrow. So maybe we reach on Irv Smith here.
Okay.
I'm good with Ryan putting it out there too.
Perfect.
I think it's fine. And now we can just say hey, our next 2 are going to be 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers.
I'm okay with this. Kind of to your point earlier, I don't think reaching at this point is too big a deal.
Yeah, agreed. And hey, maybe DPJ falls to us at 179 because we have, we've got Deshaun there. If we were looking at the running backs and kind of ADP, you've got Singletary and Kendra at the top here. Otherwise, we're in that kind of hodgepodge. I'm going to put Jerome Ford in the queue just because gives us maybe not Jerome Ford. We have Chubb. That's probably a little. I don't love that. I like taking 2 backs from the same offense, but I probably don't love that one.
I just don't know if Ford, if something happened to Chubb, I don't know. I'm not as high on him doing much with the role to himself, or if he'd even have the role to himself.
I agree with that. I think just like with Kareem Hunt, when Chubb was out, Kareem Hunt didn't become a game winner. He kind of kept the same role with maybe a few more touches. So.
Have you been taking, where is your ownership on CEH? I feel like I've been taking him with some of my last picks in a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
Just in case, the Kansas City offense, just in general, I'm curious what your thoughts are on CEH.
I definitely don't hate it. Yeah. And if you're doing more of a sit and go style or a smaller tournament, I think I'm more open to it. But for me, the gap between CEH and the other running backs that are not being drafted at all is minimal. So I'd rather default to the guys who aren't being drafted in 90% of drafts because CEH, he's always just had that ADP of 200, which just means he's always going in the 18th round. And if he ends up having that breakout season, yes, it's great that you have him on your team, but so do 8% of all the teams in the tournament. And so I'd rather say you know what? We're not sure if CEH is the backup or if he gets the role. We're not sure if Josh Kelly is the backup or gets the role. But if Josh Kelly gets that role and Austin Eckler goes down, he's going to be on what? Like, I don't know. Drafted in 5% of drafts, maybe 10% of drafts. That puts it on actually like 1% of overall teams. I'd rather have that uniqueness when it's basically a coin flip for me in the back of drafts.
No, I like that. See, I'm taking notes over here. I'm going to win this thing, if not this year, next year for sure.
The most exciting part is that these notes are eventually going to turn into this just somehow amazing collage that like is far more Insta worthy than some words on a tweet.
Oh, there you go. You just gave me an idea for content too.
word clouds. I love it. We're bringing word clouds to Instagram. They're going to love it over there.
Definitely.
Very corporate, very on brand in us. You know, we are in the boardroom, no better. Like I'm thinking in my like corporate world, we used to have someone come in for important meetings and just sit in the corner and doodle our conversations. So then, have you heard of this? Or it's they basically put the poster up, and if we're talking about brainstorming around, I don't know, ice cream or something, and they'll draw some ice cream and they'll put some lines about like the different ideas and some pros and cons. And this meeting we just had turns into this beautiful artistic little caricature thing. That's what literally I'm envisioning you're doing right now. So it's good.
Yeah, no, I'm not like one of these, police sketch artists that can do it really fast, or like the people at the county fair that draw the picture of you. But I'm taking notes for what I could turn into a cool collage.
There you go.
Yeah.
What is your secret with regards to all the images that you create for Instagram? Are you leveraging kind of the new AI tools? Do you have like an artist partner, or what's that?
Well, so I have a background in graphic design. I have a bachelor's in graphic design. I've been doing it for over 20 years, but mostly in the ski industry. I was doing it for a ski company. And then I started kind of when you guys started ETR, I started Fantasy Guides 2019. And just for fun, I was putting content out on Instagram because I loved fantasy football. I've been playing fantasy football for almost 20 years. So I started doing that. So it kind of tied together really nicely. I had the graphic design background. I loved doing it. It was fun. So I started creating posts, and they, started to do pretty well. And, but yes, to your question about the AI tools, I'm trying to immerse myself in as much AI as possible because it's amazing. I'm shocked at where we are with AI. I don't know if you've messed with it much, but
yep. I've done a ton on the more, as you can imagine, tech side with ChatGPT and with Bard, but I've played a little with kind of Midjourney and all of those as well. It's insane, and the tools that just kind of keep the improving upon it. DPJ falls to us. Love that.
Yeah.
We don't love the week 5 aspect, but it's worth it to get DPJ. We just need to keep in mind for the rest of ours with regards to we're still going to get at least one more wide receiver. Running back, we have that Jerome Ford. There's Chuba.
Right at you.
What are your thoughts?
Sorry, I'm just trying to see who we have and who's available. Yeah, I don't like the Jerome Ford one. I mean, normally I would say someone like CEH would stand out to me, but based on kind of the conversation we have, I don't really know. I'm gonna lean on you on this one.
Okay, let's go with Chuba. I believe Chuba's been falling because of this, little injury, as well as there's been like murmurs about Raheem Blackshear having more in that number 2 role, but I think that's more noise than anything else. If you look at his actual usage in preseason, like it seems like he's the clear number 2, and I believe that he actually has some opportunity to kind of get a little more standalone value, even if Miles Sanders is healthy. We saw last year with Carolina where their ability to run the game, their running game with both Deonta Foreman and Chuba was pretty impressive. Yeah. Either of them could have good games, like just kind of ping pong style. So I like him at this spot. I think he and Jerome Ford are guys that I'm still drafting a bunch right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I like Chuba for this one.
Do you think that Cordero could have any standalone value?
Yeah, I do. I think he actually probably has one of the highest floors of the guys being drafted around him. I think my challenge is trying to realize what his season-long upside is.
Yeah.
Because even if you had an injury to Bijan, you'd still have Algier as the kind of primary runner. And then Patterson maybe moves up to like a 12th rounder. If Algier got hurt, then maybe Patterson moves up to like a 15th, 14th rounder.
Right.
But you would really need them both to get hurt and Patterson to stay healthy. So if it is a team where it's like, I really need some running back 4, running back 5 production, I don't mind it.
Okay.
But if you're looking for like a breakout player, I think there's other guys that I'd prefer.
That ship has probably sailed. It happened a few years ago.
Yeah, it did. It did. I mean, and now he's what is this his age 32 season?
Yeah, it is. I believe so anyway.
Yeah, he is. He's 32. His birthday, it was March 17th, so age 32 season.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's not the normal running back. He doesn't have the wear and tear and all those hits that most others do, but
he's also more athletic than most. I feel like that gives him a little bit, but we're talking 32.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, usually we're saying this about a 28 or 29-year-old running back.
One of the best kick returners that we've seen in the league, Cordero Patterson. But does he still have that just burst that he had when he was 24, let alone 28, 29? Yeah. I don't know.
Now, Justin, do you have a team that you root for?
I live in the Tampa area, so like if anything, it would be that. It's always fun to be in a city when like a sports team is doing well, but my years in DFS and all of this, I've kind of lost a bit of the fandom.
I get
and it's not so much that like the players aspects. I think it's seeing these teams make decisions that are like either buddy driven or financially driven, but not like actually trying to put the best product on the field. There are some teams that do. But like there are some sharp teams, no question. But so many teams will keep a general manager because he's friends with the owner. They will keep a coach because they don't want to upset rock the boat or anything. And so I just like, I don't know. I'm not willing to devote too much of my mental energy, passion to one team. I cheer for players. I cheer for that.
I'm going to have to hit you up next time I go to Tampa. I've gone there the last 2 years and watched Brady and Mahomes last year, and then couple years ago, Giants and Bucks. It's fun.
Nice. Can I sell you on Baker Mayfield?
Can you sell me on him?
Yeah, I mean, you came for Tom Brady. I mean, now you want to come for Baker?
One player that I just feel like we just got Godwin. I feel like Mike Evans has been going so late in drafts, and I just can't ignore how good he's been regardless, and so I don't know about Baker specifically, but I have found myself drafting some Mike Evans just because he's going like mid-30s, so.
Yeah. I mean, hey, 1,000 yards. So it's 7 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. Actually, is it more than that? Is it 9? I don't know. It's insane.
Since he entered the league, so was that 14, 15?
It might be 9. I have 9 in the back of my head.
Yeah, these 9 straight seasons. Yeah.
I mean, my honest advice, well, hey, if you come to Tampa, would love to go grab a beer. If you decide to skip this year, maybe you can come for Caleb next year. Hopefully,
there you go.
Either maybe Drake May or some Caleb. We'll see.
But, hey, I live in Colorado, and so if I can get there in December, that's perfect. A little break from the winter cold.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. A few wide receivers on the board. Michael Wilson running in 2 wide receiver sets. Yeah. Josh Downs is the volume wide receiver in Indy. I'm okay with either. There's not really. I mean,
I like Michael Wilson. I was actually with Dave on your team. We were just texting back and forth about Michael Wilson playing in the 2 wide receiver sets.
There you go.
I like that one.
I would have pushed us from McCall Hardman, given the Corey Davis news, given the bring back to Cleveland. But with him gone, I think Michael Wilson goes. We ended up not doing the best stacking here, but we did get some just really good value on our QBs. So it kind of makes up for it a little.
Yeah, I think those QBs falling kind of messed with that because Geno, like I was eyeballing him shortly after we took Watson, but I don't think you can pass on Watson.
And I do not believe A.B. Carpin is going to grab a 7th. Actually, maybe they'll grab a 7th running back. I'm hoping they don't. At least I hope they don't grab Chris Evans. But Chris Evans feels like a great combo to this team. Sounds like he's going to be the pass catching back there in Cincinnati. If he gets as much of a role as Samaje got, like we know that's a fantastic role. It also gives us some more correlation from a pass catching with Burrow. You good with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
And it's a unique player, has not been drafted much. So I think that feels pretty strong. Okay. I think this was a good example of kind of the drafts that you can get right now with 2 weeks before the season. We literally talked about the challenges of getting successful stacks because people are just kind of grabbing randomness here and there. But also, like, gosh, how much ADP value on our QBs? We got 49 to 62 here, 86 to 107 there. Like, that's so much value for quarterbacks. Love to see that. How are your feelings on this draft?
I like it. And again, I know you said you have like low ownership in him, but I'm just really high on Nick Chubb this year and the Browns overall. I also think kind of want to give Deshaun a mulligan for how he performed last season. I think he comes back, and I wasn't planning on drafting Joe Burrow, but where he fell at QB9, was it?
Yeah.
I think you have to take him. So I'm pretty excited about it. I like this team.
Nice. I do not mind it at all. I think, yeah, we actually are pretty heavily invested in this Cleveland offense. We ended up getting 2 stack partners for Burrow. So while we weren't able to bring, and we had one bring back in Rashee Rice. So maybe we got some unorthodox stacks and game stacks. But overall, I am not too upset about it. This was fun. Appreciate you joining us, Steve. Let the people know. How can they find you on Instagram? Where can they find fantasy guides? What else do you have going on the rest of the next couple weeks and into the season?
Yeah, so at Fantasy Guides on Instagram, and then I also have the Fantasy Guides podcast where you can find all your podcasts. And I'm just, like you said, I create word clouds that I create. So I'm right now creating word clouds for the amount of content. I put out a ton of content in the season, with a little bit more like the redraft content in mind, but I put a ton of it out. So if you haven't checked me out, at Instagram's the best place. And then on Instagram, you can see all my other channels that I have on there. But
awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, chat, everyone who's watched, appreciate it. If you're watching this back after the fact, appreciate you as well. Go on over, follow him if you're in the Insta worlds. For me, at Justin Herzig, go follow me on Twitter. In a couple minutes, I'm actually going to be drafting from Twitter on a DraftKings one. So if you want to join in that, it'll be a $10 Millie Maker one. Or if you just want to kind of come and hang out, watch that as well. Head on over to my Twitter. For everyone else, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the final 2 weeks. Do not let the grind wear you out. Do not give up. Do not give in to the temptation of closing those eyes and falling asleep early. You can get at least one more draft in. No auto drafts here on your slow drafts, people. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all later.